All right, for this domain and range review, I would really encourage you, I'm gonna go ahead in this video, I'm gonna do these left four. I would really encourage you to kind of try them first and recall and see what you remember. Okay, but I'm gonna use color. I'm gonna use pink for domain and yellow for range. Okay, just make it kind of visual and easier to remember. So if you remember, domain is all the x values. So what I'm looking for is where on the x-axis is this line kind of covering from where to where. So what I'm going to do is for domain, I'm always looking. Let's put it up here, left to right on the x-axis. And from the range, I'm always looking bottom to top on the y-axis. Okay, I'm always going least to greatest, right? So like in the case of x, it's left to right. In the case of y, it's bottom to top. All right, so in this case, this graph continues. It starts, the left side of the graph starts at an x value of -4, and it continues. This graph continues all the way along. If I kind of imagine squishing it to the x-axis, it would cover all of this x-axis all the way till we get to +2, right? So when I write that, I write it like this, that the x value is, look, the mouth is open towards the x, it's larger than -4, and it's smaller than +2, and it's all the numbers, this means it's all the numbers that are in between -4 and +2, and this is what it looks like. And then for the range, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it only on the y-axis, and I'm going to go bottom to top. And remember, domain, I'm only ever looking at the x-axis, and range, I'm only ever looking at the y-axis. So here for the range, I'm going to go to a bottom. So I notice the bottom of the graph is right here, and that's at a y value of -5, and it goes all the way up, up until it hits a value of 1. So I would write it like this: -5 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 1. All right, let's look at the next one. Okay, so here, let's start with the domain. The domain is the x values. Remember what I'm doing is I'm thinking, okay, if I took this and I squished it to the x-axis, where would it touch? And here's the thing, if I took this and I squished it onto the x-axis, it would actually only touch just this one value, right? It would all just kind of like squash right onto that. And so since it's just one value, I'm not saying, oh, x is larger than this number and smaller than this number. I'm saying, oh, x just equals this one value. X equals 1. Now for the range, if I were to squish it onto the y-axis, here it would be more like this one where it's, it's in between two values. It starts here, the bottom is right here at a y value of 1, and the top is right here at a y value of 5, and it's all of these values that are in between 1 and 5, and so we would write that like this. 1 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 5. Coming down here, let's start with the domain. This graph starts, look, I'm thinking about x values, right? Think about squishing the x values. And remember that this graph has, right, like arrows that go on forever. So this graph, if I were to squish it to the x-axis, it would squish and it would start right here at -2. But then since it goes on forever to the right, it would just continue forever to the right on the x-axis. So in this case, when we talk about left to right, there's no right side. There's no boundary on the right. It's just, it starts on the left at -2, and it goes to all the numbers that are greater than -2, right? How do I know they're greater than? I can look at the numbers. I can say, oh, these numbers 2, 3, 4, these are bigger than -2, or I can see that it goes to the right. But what I'm going to write is that the x values are all the numbers that are greater than or equal to -2. Okay, now for the range. See how this arrow goes right forever, but it also kind of goes up forever? And this arrow goes right forever, but it also kind of goes down forever. So this graph actually goes up forever and down forever. And the way that we write this is that this range, these y values, and look, I forgot about this. These y values can be all real numbers. Okay, last one. I noticed this one's a little different. It's not like a continuous graph. It's just particular points. Okay, so let's start with the domain. Again, we're imagining like if I take the points and I kind of squish them onto the x-axis, look, this point will land right here. This point will land right here. This point will land right here, and this point will land right here. And notice I'm not like making a line along the x-axis, it's just individual points. So I'm going to list my domain. The rules are that I list it least to greatest. okay, least to greatest, and no repeats. And visually on the graph, right, I can kind of see at least to greatest. I'm going to go left to right. So I'm going to list my domain as -2, -1, 0, 4. And there's my domain from least to greatest, and there actually are no repeats here. Let's take a look at the range. We're going to imagine squishing these points to the y value, to the y-axis. This point goes over here, gets squished right here. This point gets squished to right here. This point actually also squishes to the 2, right? Now we're not going to list the 2 twice, and then that last point is kind of sitting on the 3. So here, for my range, I list 1, 2, 3. Notice I don't list 2 twice, even though there's 2 points that have a y value of 2. That doesn't matter, we don't list repeats. Okay, so go ahead and try these 4 on the right now that you've seen these examples on the left.